Hello everyone, welcome to Baba's Toppers Talk. Today we have All India rank 13 Medha Anand with us. Uh, since I know her since 2020, I would like to introduce her to you briefly. She has given 5 attempts and 3 mains and 3 interviews. And as all of you know that UPSC journey is a journey with a lot of ups and downs, and I think she has seen a lot of downs in the journey, and that is what I think most of you also will be interested in listening to. And I mean, she could not clear prelims in her first attempt. Second attempt, she got all India rank 311, and she got into railways. But then it took her 3 more years to get to this stage, and a lot of struggle has been put into. And then the next attempt, third attempt, she missed the finalist by a single mark. She got into the reserve list. Then the fourth attempt, she was not able to clear prelims again by a whisker. And finally, in her fifth attempt, she was able to get this top rank. So, hearty congratulations, Medha, for that.
Thank you, sir.
And it was also a proud moment for us at ISPAWA here because she was part of our ILP integrated learning program, our mains program, that is TLP, and our interview program as well. So that makes it even more special for us. Coming to Medha, like if you can introduce, if I've left out anything, you can say the same to the students.
So I think that you have said pretty much all of it. And apart from that, sir, I am a civil engineer from HPTI Kanpur, and I was, as you said, I was in railway traffic service, and that's all about me.
So when you looked at the final list, did you think that you will be in that top 20?
I think, sir, this unpredictable exam, it's very difficult to think likewise. So I just hope that this time God is with me and I get a good rank and I'm able to change my service. At best, what I was thinking that maybe just God gets me into Indian Police Service, because for Indian Administrative Services, all things have to be in a single line. And I thought that that is too much to ask from God as well. So I thought that something in the line of police service would also be fine by me. But having seen this rank, I was so thankful, so grateful, and I think all my parents' prayers were answered that day itself. So it was a kind of a miracle, so to say, sir.
Nice. And also, I think you scored pretty much well in mains. It is among the top, I think top 3, top 4, 875 is a very good score in mains. So I think we'll come back to that later. So let us understand your struggle, because that 3 years that you took from 311th rank to rank 13. What were the difficulties that you faced? How was it like? And obviously, the biggest difficult thing is to maintain that consistency and that motivation for the next 3 years. So how was it like?
So I would like to mention my third attempt, wherein I thought that I am a better person and more knowledgeable than I was earlier. So I was expecting a really good rank that year. And I still remember having looked at the list which said that no names found while a thing came, and I was totally disheartened. But then after a while I came to know that I had missed the mark by just a mark. So next year again I gave the exam, and in that year I could not get through the prelims, and I was I was not anxious, but I would say I was amused by the situation because the displacement had been 0. Again, coming back to the same point. The next year I decided I'll not give the exam itself. So 1 year I dropped in between, and that was during my training time, and I decided that I'll just enjoy my training and do nothing else. So I think that was one way of maintaining the motivation, that I skipped that attempt, because I thought that I'll just get into a loop and will do the same things again and again. So I thought that that would be the best way. So for a while I just enjoyed my training. Wherever it took me along, I just went there, just enjoyed, did nothing. So that was a way to reinvigorate myself. And once that was done, in the next year, I decided to give it again. And for that, I remember doing everything which was possible for me. After the training hours, I would sit, I would give weekly tests, everything I used to do, which were in my human capacity possible. So, sir, what motivated me, if that's the question, the answer is one year not giving the exam itself. I just wanted a break. And after that, I think I used to speak to my parents whenever I felt low. I had really good friends really good mentors, and I would just speak to them and be relaxed. I remember calling you as well after my prelims result were out, and I was like, just tell me something that I'm able to score well in my mains. So that's how I manage, sir.
So what I can understand is one is you are occupied, so there's something that you can look back or fall back on. And second thing is your family and friends and mentors put together. So these are the two strong pillars, is what you are telling me. So, but say suppose somebody who's been preparing since last 2 years, 3-4 years, and who does not have a job or a fallback thing. So, what the advice you have for such people, and also how to maintain this consistency and this self motivation in this long journey?
So I think that for kids who are preparing, sometimes lack of financial independence becomes a problem, because that is what is eating up their confidence. So one thing I would say, that since you've given so many years to this preparation, you definitely have a stronger hold than the other ones. So try taking up a job which utilizes your knowledge and your potential in this arena and pays you something in return. That way you can keep yourself engaged for some amount of time at least. I'm not saying the whole year, but at least for 3 or 4 months you can get enrolled in something which pays you back, so that you are able to like use that money for yourself in future. That will also, since that will give you a diverse viewpoint. For example, if you start evaluating, you have given an exam and you know the answers to it, and you start evaluating the copy of your peers and get some bucks out of it, then you will have that financial independence. For me, what worked out was that I was already in railway traffic service, so I did not have to think twice while spending or something. But for kids who are still preparing, they need some kind of a financial independence, so to say. So that is one thing, sir. And another can be that the whole year you cannot sit idle and just keep on preparing for an exam which is yet to come after a very long time. So do something while you're free, and then start preparing once the time comes along, sir.
Yeah. And also, I personally feel that this 20 to 30 years, it's a very productive age. And sitting for exam for like I think more than 3-4 years, I don't think that makes sense as well. So yes, that is your dream, but also look for certain alternatives so that you become financially independent. I think that gives you a lot of freedom, a lot of cushioning, and in fact that instills that confidence so that you can. In fact, many students who are working and preparing, they're cleared, and that with very good ranks in top 20s, 10s, and all. Right. So coming to prelims, which is supposed to be the most, toughest in the 3 stages. But I personally feel, interview is the toughest, but probability of clearing prelims is very difficult because of height. Or probably low, that was the wrong word. The probability of clearing prelims is very low, considering the huge amount of competition that we have. So, what do you have to say, like, or how was your preparation, like, because you have seen 2 failures in prelims, then 3 successes in prelims again. So, what was your prelim strategy?
So for what worked for me was that since I was occupied with my job, I did not have much time to think about it. But for example, if I would have been that free, then I would have just thought that, I'm not worth it, and all those thoughts would have come to my mind. But since I was preoccupied, I did not think that much about it after getting into the service. So that actually helped, because I was not overthinking on a point which was very negative. Often what happens is, for aspirants who are preparing, they will always feel that, okay, my marks are less, I did not score well in this exam. And I must tell you, sir, that there are certain coaching institutions which are making extremely difficult question papers, which are not at all relevant for UPSC, and a person will get highly demotivated after attempting those question papers. So for me, I used to practice a lot of mocks. Some used to be really, really bad. Like I could even score 30-35 marks in a mock, because it used to be so difficult that it was very difficult to get more than 30-35 marks. And that days I had to eat up whatever good was as per my understanding, and then I used to recuperate in the next day, then again start. Another point is that there is a need to make a strategy. There has to be an optimum number of questions which an aspirant has to attend in the examination. Because once we are there, we might not think objectively about it, but I've seen some people attempting just 60 questions, 70 questions, and their accuracy is not that par. If your accuracy is that you attempt 70 questions and 60 are correct, maybe that will work for you. But for aspirants for whom this accuracy is not their stronghold, they cannot rely on 60 to 70 questions. They'll have to go for somewhere 85 to 90 questions so as to clear the prelims cutoff. Sir, another point which need to be stressed upon in these times is CSAT. We just can't ignore CSAT. Having said that, I did not do anything special and got lucky enough that I fared well through CSAT. But this should not belittle the role of CSAT in the coming years. Because with time, the question papers are becoming extremely difficult. And the comprehensions won't let you cross the 27 questions wala mark, and you need to go through maths questions. So there has to be some sort of extra effort that you'll have to put in to even clear CSAT. Because if you're getting good marks in GS but not able to clear CSAT, that is another kind of dukh in this series. So we should not experience that dukh and somehow get out of it. So this would be my 2-3 cents of knowledge on just practice a lot of mocks, make a strategy, what suits you the best. If you're good at accuracy, attempt less, let the score be high because of the accuracy. And third would be that don't belittle the role of CSAT. It plays a huge role these days.
Okay. So, since you mentioned this number of questions to be attempted, and I keep getting a lot of questions, what is the minimum number of questions to be attempted in UPSC prelims? Is there a number for you?
So for me, it was always 90 plus. I would never attempt less than that because I knew my accuracy was not that good. So for me, it would be somewhere that 60 or 65 correct questions and rest would be wrong. And the question paper will always be such that you might not know precisely the answer of more than 30 to 35 questions, and that in itself is a bigger number. There can be cases where you might not know the answers for exact answer for more than 20 questions. The rests have to be guesses. So intelligent guess and all that is fine, but then you'll have to go beyond that 20. So for all those whose accuracy is not good, again 80 plus is, I think, is a safe margin. But for people who I see attempting just 60-65 questions, I don't think so that will fetch good marks, because out of that, even if 20-30 questions are wrong, then again you're out of the list. So I think the optimum for me were more than 90, but people can make their own choices based on how much they are getting in the mock test. That is where mock test will help them.
So basically here, what I personally feel is there are two categories of students.
Yeah.
One category of students wherein there are high accuracy rate. I in fact remember there's a friend of mine, she used to say attempt 65, 63 or 62 was right. But I belong to the other category wherein I know whatever I do, even if I attempt 60, I'll be getting 20 wrong.
Wrong, correct.
So when people like us are there, I think we should be attempting more number of questions. Probably 80 plus, 85 plus, 90 plus. But anywhere, I think at least minimum 70 questions should be attempted, considering the difficulty level and your accuracy rate, is what I personally feel. And coming to the tests, number of mock tests, is there a fixed number to take the test? Like how many tests had you taken? Prelims?
So I had time constraints, so I don't remember how many I gave, but I used to give them as frequently as possible. Actually, what happens is when an aspirant gives this exam for the first time, he or she has a number in mind that, this time I'll solve these many number of question papers, 50 tests, yeah. Every day I'll give a test. But with number of attempts passing by, one realizes that I need to maybe attempt the whole test series of one coaching so that I'm able to cover a diverse number of questions, and after that I'll be fine. And that is also not sometimes achievable because of the time constraints or whatever. So I think you can practice as much as you want. If you find good question papers, just practice them along. It won't take much of your time. Maybe an hour or 1.5 hours would suffice, and a person can know what all he or she knew in the paper and what he or she didn't. So they can just take out what all was new for them and then go ahead with their preparation. So I think maybe 2 months before the exam, one can just start focusing on giving one paper every day. So that can also be a good strategy. So 60 if we have to quantify it, maybe somewhere around.
So coming to CSAT,
Hmm.
since you already mentioned that,
Hmm.
and in fact that is one paper which has pulled down the cutoff to one of the
Substantial.
lowest in UPSC history.
Yes.
So any, special advice you have to give, especially since the prelims is around the corner in next 1.5 2 months. So any particular advice you want to give to them? What will be done in the next 60 days?
So I think one is to practice CSAT mock papers. Everybody will have to solve, like, if not more, at least one each day. If you're bad at CSAT, try practicing question papers. And if you think that you still are not able to do well, just go through the theory part as well. Take some book. We had so many books which we used to refer to for the aptitude and everything. We can initiate with one or two topics, and daily we can start practicing on those topics. For example, there's some set formulas, how many triangles within this triangle.
Yeah.
So if one is able to learn that formula, they'll get to know how many triangles are there. But if you'll start attempting it there, then one might not find the answer to it. Even then, there are chances that it might get wrong. So it's very important to practice. It depends on what is your level of understanding of CSAT. Even for people who think that the CSAT is very strong, I strongly recommend that they need to solve CSAT papers. Because then there is this mental capacity, which expands. Each time you solve a paper, you think about it and you reflect on how to solve it. If there is a question on arithmetic progression, you'll revise all the formulas of AP. Okay, the sum of numbers is this, n by 2, 2a plus n minus 1 into d, nth term is so and so. These things, once you revise, it becomes really easy. But if you just go there and you are starstruck by it, then that's a problem. So to all those giving the paper, please don't ignore CSAT.
Yeah. I think also, like, you need to identify the most important topics. There's so many topics, and some students are comfortable with certain topics. Like some students, or majority, I would feel, I personally think that they're not comfortable in permutation combination. If that is the case, I think it's better we can drop that and focus on the other areas like averages, time, speed, and distance. There are many topics like ratio, proportion, wherein you will get that marks. So yeah, probably around 8 to 10 topics you need to identify, looking at the PYQs. And at least say 30-40 questions or 50 questions of each topic if you solve also, I think that will give you a lot of confidence. Yeah. So coming to, I think the biggest part in the entire phase is mains, because that is one phase you can control, plan and execute it properly. And I think you are the best person to speak on that now, because you've also got a very good score of 875 marks. So how was your mains preparation? What helped? What did not help?
Sir, I wrote a lot of answers. Despite the time constraints, I remember that I used to tell my friends, see, this day I'll write these many answers. And those friends would help me in making sure that I achieve this goal. They would ask me at the end of the day, did you do it? Did you write those answers? Okay, send it across. I'll check them. So my friends were really helpful in this whole preparation. I remember that I used to write random, like, I used to get enrolled or just have the question papers of the same, and I would send them across to you. So all the papers that you have checked are actually not of IS Baba, because what I wrote for IS Baba was left with me. I could not complete those tests. There were some, I started writing one of the GS2 papers, but then I remember I wrote somewhere around 13 questions of the same. And I did not send it across to you, thinking that you will feel that, oh, what a lazy woman she is, that she didn't write even 20 questions properly. So whatever full length tests I was able to write, I used to send it across to you and you would check them, and from a different ink pen you would recommend me that, in conclusion you can add this. And so what you told in conclusion was actually very helpful, because I remember in 2019 all my GS3 answers had SDGs in it, because I could not think of anything else.
Yeah.
So that's when you told me that these are some of the things which you can add, maybe some critical point or some way ahead, some futuristic trend, some kind of a jingoistic term. So that was really helpful, because in that time constraint of 3 hours, it is very difficult to think something really new. Wherein I think that, okay, this time if I'll write something wonderful. That just doesn't come along. In 8 minutes, whatever comes out is what I truly believe in. That will come only from practice. So the difference that came from my 2019 attempt and this one was that I wrote a lot of PYQs, and I would send them across to my friends, to mentors like you, and then I would get feedbacks on the same. and I would try to incorporate those feedbacks in my answers. The same thing I did for sociology as well, sir. So herein I thought that how to make my sociology answer different from GS. Earlier my answers used to be really, really bland, but then I thought that I'll incorporate more number of thinkers or add the sociological perspectives to it. So again, I would say that in GS4 also, there are three kinds of questions. One is the case study. One is the questions which come on normal syllabus. What is compassion? What is empathy? How do you differentiate this, that, etc., etc. And the third one is where there is a line given and you have to decipher what is the meaning of it. So you can have three different strategies for all these three things. For case studies, you have 15 minutes for one case study, and you cannot in any whichever way breach that target, that time limit of 15 minutes. Because these days they are very lengthy case studies.
Especially ethics paper.
Ethics paper. They'll give you very lengthy case studies and you have just 15 minutes. 10 minutes you are just reading the question. So you have to be in that habit wherein in 15 minutes you are able to solve the whole case study. So maybe make a prototype that I'll start with this, I'll end with this, and in between I'll write this matter. And similar can be the case with the questions where we are deciphering a thought. So my strategy there was, first I would write what I understand by it, then maybe give an example, if possible give an antidote to it. Let's see, sometimes even this might not be true, and then just conclude.
Yeah.
This would space you maybe a minute or so, because now you don't have to think what you'll write in this. If suddenly I'm seeing a quote, I need 2-3 minutes just to decipher it.
Yeah.
But then to plan it and give it 2 extra minutes would just waste my time. So I'll plan it before the exam itself that okay, this I'll write. There I'll just decipher it, write it down, give an example, write it down, write an antidote, write it down, and just conclude it. And that makes a perfect answer. That is my understanding. So that is how you should go around. And for rest of the GS, at least in 14 to 15 questions, you'll have to write really well. Some questions might not work that well for you, but that's all right. That will happen with everybody else. You need not be good at 20, but be good at least 14 to 15 questions, and write all 20 questions. My suggestion is to never leave any question. Even if you don't know anything about it, you have to write something about it. Now something of Bose-Einstein condensate wala thing came. That's all right. If you don't know it, you can't write anything on it. But then next year that cyber dome question came. Something is related to cyber. Now you know there is something related to cyber. Just write anything you know about cyber. Make a diagram, make a dome that this is how it will protect all my devices. Whatever you know about cyber, you've prepared well, you've prepared enough. You might not know it's a project of the Kerala government, but then you know it is something related to cyber. So just write the significance of it, what all can be done in future. So never leave any, like that would be my personal suggestion, to never leave any question in any of the GS paper. That can totally be a game changer for an aspirant.
Definitely, because especially when you are in the top 100 or even if you are in the top list, every half a mark changes. Your rank, your service, your cadre.
Correct.
So lot of difference there. So that's what I keep saying. You have to fight for every half a mark. Half a mark in one paper is 10 marks. In one GS paper, and that is equal to 40 marks in 4 GS papers. So that is the difference you can make. And even this one, rather than writing 20 best answers, which is practically not possible. I think 12 to 13 or 13 to 14 good enough answers, or 20 good enough answers can be written. So it may not be all the 20 are best answers, and humanly it is not possible. There can be some extraordinary people, but practically it is not possible. And coming to that quote-based question as well, that is the structure that I have given as well. Whenever students have asked me how to decipher a quote-based question. So obviously the first thing is your understanding of the quote, then a positive example supporting the quote, then an antidote to it, or the negative example towards it, or the negative aspect or perspective of it, then you conclude.
Maybe then I've taken it from you only. I might not remember that, but maybe I might.
That is the structure that I have given, because that is a very simple and easy structure to follow as well. And coming to this answer writing, especially for freshers, when to start answer writing, that is something that students keep asking me. Like, say a fresher starts off and this is the first day or first month. So should the student start off from the first day of his UPSC preparation, or should he or she give sufficient time so that certain content is consolidated and then give the mains? I mean, start writing answers. What do you say?
Sir, I think one reading is necessary. After a student finishes one reading of the syllabus, only then he or she should start writing the answer. For example, if there is a question on IR Coelho case, if I'll just read it once and start writing an answer on the same, I might not write that good answer or an answer which requires that much depth. So there is a requirement that I know everything about Keshavanand Bharati and then the doctrine of basic structure, what happened, what were the problems, everything. So for that I need to have at least one reading of that basic thing. Once I'm done with that, I can start writing answers. So my suggestion would be that you go through the syllabus once, maybe subject wise. If I complete polity once, now I'm able to write an answer on this. There is a question on secularism. If I'll start writing directly on it, I might have a problem. But once I've completed one reading of the same, I'll have more understanding of the various facets which connect to secularism. So I'll be able to take points from different parts of the syllabus and connect it with secularism. See, this point is also related to secularism.
Yeah.
This article also belongs to, this schedule also belongs to secularism.
Yeah.
So my answer will get a very diversified viewpoint. Similar can be the case with like the whole GS paper. Either you finish it like the whole GS and then start writing the answer, because I think all the GS have some contribution to make in the other.
Yeah.
Similar is the case with essay. With each reading, my understanding of writing an essay will increase.
Definitely.
And if I'm given a philosophical topic and I have to write an essay on the same, if I have read all the subjects, all the GS papers, I'll be able to deliver a better essay as compared to if I just start writing the essay on the first go. And once you start your answer writing journey after this first reading, then you continue your answer writing journey, because it's very important to develop that skill. I've seen aspirants who have written like continuously for 3-4 months, and their answer writing skills have really improved. And one can easily even see for themselves. Like the first answer that I wrote, I still have that on my online channel. So I feel amused at the answer that I've written. It is just not related to the question that was asked. There is a difference between why, when, how. If you're not able to comprehend the difference between why, when, how, that's a problem. If somebody is asking who, then that's a different question altogether. So to understand the diversity of the question will take you some more time, which will come by practice. So first a basic reading, then understand what they are asking and not what you know of the topic.
Yeah, that is very important.
Yeah, and afterwards then you can continue writing. So
that's what I keep saying is the first principle of answer writing is answer to the demand of the question.
not what you know.
Yeah, what you know is completely different from what is actually asked in the question. So that is the first thumb rule that one should keep in answer writing. And I think that can be improved. Answer writing can be improved by sheer practice. I think practice makes a man perfect. That quote I would relate to it. To sheer practice, one can improve one's answer writing. And how important is to keep the introductions and conclusions ready for every topic of the syllabus. Did you do that way? Was there a prepared intros, like say for example, demographic dividend? Was there a prepared intro and conclusion beforehand? Had you prepared value additions like reports, committees, examples, data? How was it?
So I had those things with me, all the data reports. I had made a small notebook and I would just keep on adding the value additions that I can do. I did not have particular introductions and conclusions, but then I had some points wherein if I'm not able to comprehend how to start this question, I will just write this down that see, India is entering into Amrit Kal and this is one of the requirements for it. Something of that sort, which can be added to either an economy question, an environment question, or a polity question as well. So some I had prepared, but not topic wise. For me, what went ahead was that whatever be the major topic in the question, I used to pick up that and then write maybe a fact based on it. Let's see, so many people were pulled out of poverty from the time period 2000 this to this, and this shows that India is on the path to something like that. So that ways I used to do it, and then I had like full one copy, spiral copy, small copy, which I used to keep with me during my training times, and I would just keep on revising them, because unless I have those facts really into my system, I won't be able to reproduce them. and then it was very important for me to use those facts in the test series that I was giving, because if I won't use them there, I won't use them in the main exam as well. So that is one of the problems with the last minute handouts that aspirants often find. There are many people who just find last minute's handout and they're like, now I'll ace this world and conquer this world. But you won't be able to reproduce those handouts because you've not practiced them. Unless you've practiced a quote or you've practiced a data, you won't be able to reproduce it in the main examination. So I had that with me, and this time I ensured that I made bar graphs and everything. I used to just keep on making them so that just blends into my system. And whenever I would write, I would make maps, I would make bar charts, I would make graphs, and that I think that helped.
So also understanding the the syllabus better, that is also very important for mains. Because say Gandhiji, if you look at it, you can bring Gandhiji in paper 1, paper 2, paper 3, paper 4, women in paper 1, 2, 3, 4. I think, and when you're writing a GS1 answer, the societal and sociological aspects of Gandhiji is what should be brought in. Probably when you're going to GS2, it is the administrative aspects like I think the local panchayats, administration, all that can be brought in there. And when you go to GS3, Gandhiji's economical aspect, that cottage industries. So I think that is a very important part. Or even 73rd, 74th directly can be linked to Gandhiji. Again, it comes in a paper too. And ethics, though Gandhiji life itself
Rules.
so roots back to that. So that understanding is very important even when you are writing answers, because you cannot write the same aspect. You said Gandhiji is asked in GS1 and GS3, doesn't mean that you write the same points.
Correct.
The societal aspects are different and the economical aspects are different. And I think that is very important. Now coming to, since you just mentioned about essay, so there are two types of essays where we call it as, one is theme-based essays, where traditional like environment-based questions, women-based questions, history-based questions are given, or polity, administration, good governance-based. The other is the philosophical type. And now if you look at it, almost both the sections, section A and section B,
contain
almost
philosophy.
8 essays are of philosophical in nature. So what should be the strategy for the philosophical essays?
So one is that to practice a lot of philosophical essays, because each time you'll keep on writing an essay topic, you'll realize that your understanding has enhanced. And once your understanding has enhanced, you'll get to know that there are multiple dimensions to the same essay. For example, if there is an essay which says water, water everywhere, it is not particularly to water. Or for example, we had an essay wherein it was said that a ship does not sink because it has water around it, but because water enters into it. Now all these dimensions one will get to know when one writes a lot of essays, and you'll get to know that you are not in coherence with what the essay demands. If you write it yourself and read it yourself, you'll get to know it by yourself that okay, I've not written well. So one would be to write a lot. Second would be, so once the whole reading is done, you will get a very diverse base wherein you'll know from which to extract points, from which to make up a story. For example, if I have to use a historical anecdote, I need to know that historical anecdote. Okay, Akbar did this, or Aurangzeb did not do this, so that will come from my knowledge. Or if I want to use the 73rd and 74th amendment, that this is how things changed or something, so I'll have to know about it first. So another is that I would, for me, there has to be a closure effect in essay. I always say that there has to be, like for example, if I start with a fictional character, I need to end with that character. So when the examiner is reading, he or she knows, okay, this person knows where it started off and where did it end. So that is an important part. And also I would say that there are multiple dimensions on which we need to take our essay. One is the pestle approach that is often followed. So if there is a philosophical essay, think about it in the political sense, in economics sense, in technology, in every aspect which is possible. And my last piece of scent on this would be that you read Topper's essay. For me, that really helped. I was able to comprehend.
I also shared a few copies which I had evaluated.
Yeah.
You're already a topper, but there are other essays also which I used to evaluate and send it.
Yes, sir. I still remember there was this red pen that was the original checking, and then you used to add with green pens just to let me know from where you have given the extra comments. So I think so that really helps because when we read their essay, we get to know that okay, these things can be done. That is how I can incorporate more and more headings into the essay system. So once you read those toppers' essays, you'll realize that the depth of knowledge that they had, the diversity that they covered, and then the way they wrote. So I think so that will help.
Okay, and how important is coming up with the subheadings in an essay? Do you think that really matters? Or diagrams or flowchart in an essay? Because these are the doubts that students keep asking.
So diagrams and flowcharts, I'm not sure because I had a friend who made the bar charts and diagrams, and she scored really less, like in 2 digits, despite the highest that year being really high, around 150. But she scored less, so I won't comment on that. I don't know if that was because of the diagram or not, but then we jinxed things, no? So I jinxed making diagrams, that I would not draw diagrams because I think maybe they're looking for some flow in the essay, and the diagram might obstruct to that flow. Maybe unless that is an absolute prerequisite, I think we should not draw diagrams. That is my personal understanding. I might be wrong here. So subheadings, I think since we have to write two essays, in one of them we can write some fancy headings. That was my approach to it. In one I would write silver lining or double-edged sword and then colon and then something. In the second I would not do the same thing. I would just keep it really simple because I thought that doing the same thing again and again would make it look mundane. So it was better if I do it in one part and not do it in the other one. So that's how I treated it. But then if somebody is not good at making headings, it's okay to not give headings. It's not a prerequisite, so to say.
And coming to especially intro and conclusion, which is a very important part in an essay, that also sets the tone for the reader, the person who's evaluating your copy. So how did you work upon your introductions and conclusions in this?
So I had 2-3 strategies. Either I will start with a fictional story. The quote-based system did not work out well for me because I thought that there is already a quote given, why to write another quote? And plus I was not so good at memorizing quotes. But this can also be one of the strategies. So another is that in the beginning itself, I used to think of what I would write in the first page as my introduction. So first or 1.5 page would be my intro, and last 1.5 page would be my conclusion. And in the beginning itself, I used to make sure what I will write in that intro and conclusion. So you need to have enough material to write for at least 3 paragraphs. And I would always split them in paragraphs because I think writing a big monologue paragraph is difficult to comprehend. So on the first page itself, the first would be 1 paragraph, then in the middle, the next paragraph would start off, so that it also gives a very clear appearance. So that used to be my strategy for writing this.
Okay. So again, continuing with the answer writing part itself, I think note making is a very important strategy here. And many students have this issue of note making in general per se, be it for prelims, mains or interview. So how important is this notes making, and how much did it help you in the exam?
So I think note making should be started at a mature stage of understanding and mature stage of one's preparation. If you started too early, you'll end up writing everything and anything, which might not be very relevant for the exam itself. And I have seen a person who made notes of everything around. He had this big notebook in which there was just ancient history. Now this is a problematic thing.
Than the standard textbook.
Yeah, true. It was just a copy of all the standard textbooks that he read. Now this is a problematic area. You can't just go around copying everything that is there in the book. But that happened because the person was naive at the preparation stage. So what needs to be done is that once you have a clear understanding of what is there in the whole syllabus, then you go about making notes of the same. Now you know that okay, there is something called basic structure. You know that it exists. So you don't go around copying, okay, there is something called basic structure. Now you know, okay, one was Keshwanand Bharati, one was this case, in this case this was given, in another case this was given, and then you go about it. So this ways you'll make very comprehensive notes, which will be good for revision as well. But the first case which I mentioned, that is a problematic case, because nobody can revise those notes just at the nick of the exam. So there has to be a take-off stage where I start my note-making preparation. So for me, that was in my 5th attempt. Earlier, I thought that I need not make notes because I was not good at it. So in the 5th attempt, I started typing it down, because when I used to write them down, they used to be really, really bulky and not at all clear. Plus, to add something in offline notes, it becomes a tough task. If there is a new information, there is no room to write it. So what I did was that I started off making notes on OneNote, and in that I made separate notebooks, GS1, 2, 3, 4. Within them they had separate subheadings. Then they also had subsections, and I had notes for everything, GS2, GS3. I had notes on all the topics of what were relevant, and with time I used to add them with current affairs. With time, like if I gave a mock test and I found something really good in those mock tests, I used to just add them to the basic notes. That's how I did the whole year.
Yeah, especially coming to note making, there are two things that we should keep in mind. Is what I personally feel. One is when you are making a note, it should also be understood that that is something that you should be able to revise as well. It's not like you make a big book, and then you end up by writing another book. Say, for example, Polity by Lakshmikant will become Polity by you.
Correct.
So the first reading especially, you should not make notes, is what I feel. And coming to the second or third reading, you would have understood the subject better, and you would also have comprehended, analyzed it better, and you know what is important, what is not important. Probably then the note making should happen. And coming to revision, how were you revising? It was on a daily basis, weekly basis. How was the revision happening?
So one more point to that note making wala thing. Do go through the previous year question papers. Once you go through them, you realize what is important.
The scope of it.
The scope of it, and what might be asked in any subject matter. For example, if you're reading secularism, there can be multiple ways to ask secularism itself. Different dimensions of it. And it's not about what you know, it's what about they ask, that you'll have to answer from the same notes that you've made. If you have certain pointers on secularism, you have certain cases, then you'll have to answer from the same. So for revision, my strategy was after this prelims, before that I was just making the notes and everything. I would revise them once I would give the tests. After the prelims, I started revising it at further less intervals, and with passing time, the frequency increased. So it was a gradual process, because in the beginning it took me more time to revise the same set of notes. But with time, I made even comprehensive notes out of those subsection-wise notes also, and I just had one whole that, what is that called, scroll kind of a thing, which had a lot of information in it based on the subject heading, and I would just keep on revising that. And I still remember that just before the mains also, I just revised that only. And with that, my revision was done. For example, international relations, I knew which all countries were in news. France was in news, then this war was in news. So I just had some small pointers on all of them in one page, and I just revised them just a day before the exam, because I knew that something from this can come. And if I can just add on a small box and write that data fact about it, that okay, this is the GDP, this is the trade that we are having, it will just add on to my answer. So apart from the flow of the whole answer, I can just give some extra points. So that these notes help me doing the same.
And coming to your GS2 and 4, I think you have scored pretty good there. I think 131 and GS2 and 141 in
GS4
ethics paper. So what made you get that score in these two papers especially?
So
GS2 any different? Because I still remember you sending me GS2 in particular, because you said you were a little scared of GS2.
Yes, sir.
Right, and ethics also I've seen a lot, but that's what made you get that score in GS2 and 4?
So one is that GS2, first of all, I'll come to GS2. I think one is we need to write articles for everything, and this just can't be ignored. Earlier I used to think that maybe if we'll not write the articles, if we still have that depth of knowledge, we'll be able to do well. But then that is what the subject demands. The articles need to be written, the committees need to be written, Then also we need to have a very clear understanding of the subtopics that are there. I'll again use the same thing: secularism, democracy, sovereignty, republic. You need to have a really clear idea about all these things and how you'll be able to use them in any of the GS2 answers. If there is a question on democracy, you can't just end up by saying that, see, it is by the people, for the people, and that thing.
Yeah.
You'll have to substantiate it better. You'll have to use maybe some case which the court has given, or maybe some committee which was there, or maybe the recommendation of a committee. And you can even incorporate different aspects to it. How custodial torture is against democracy. You can just add on a point and write, see, since the coming of this case, we ensured that democracy was given to everyone, despite the lack of basic freedom and liberty. So I think another would be to use the subject specific terms. If you're not able to use the subject specific terms, the person would not know that we have in-depth knowledge of the same. For example, in Panchayati Raj, if there's a question, then that is a thing of democratic decentralization. If I use this term, the examiner would know that I have good knowledge of the subject and I'll be able to write it well. Most of the times what I used to miss out was that since I did not have any running notes with me, I used to forget about the cases, about the committees that had come up. This lack of knowledge would cost me in my marks. For example, if there is a question on minority institution, TMA Pi, if I remember correctly, that is the name of the case. So you need to mention it. If there is a question on Article 21, I think this year itself there was this question that how the constitutional, the judgments have enhanced the constitutional scope or something. I remember writing around 15 cases on the same. I would just add on a point that, see, write to so and so, mention the case name and explain how it enhanced, maybe in a line or two. The examiner would know better, of course. Then in second point, okay, right, this right was also added, and I would just add on the case and then explain it a little bit and then move on. So I just wrote 10 to 15 cases in that one question because the scope of it was so wide. So these are some of the questions which you can like totally vouch upon to score well. Don't miss out on them. If there is an open-ended question, just go for it, like full-fledgedly. Don't stop yourself. Whatever you remember of any case, something which has to do with women welfare, child welfare, just add it here. So for ethics, again, I'll say the same thing. There are 3 types of questions, and in all 3, you need to have a well-planned strategy. Case studies, you can't ignore them. 15 minutes should suffice for one case study. You'll have to make sure that even if lengthy case studies are coming up, you can read them within 7 minutes, not more than that. And in the next 8 minutes, you're writing the answers to the same. Maybe here, making introductions in advance would help because there are fixed number of case studies. I think 6 case studies are there. So you make 6 pointers of how to start the intro. Okay, in one, I would mention a constitutional article. In another, I would give a committee name or anything which suits you. Or I'll just add a quote maybe. You do that and then you move ahead. So writing answers cannot be less emphasized in any of these papers, specifically ethics. For students who are just preparing, there is the speaking tree in Times of India, and I've heard it works really well. So if there is time, and not between your prelims and mains preparation, but if you have a year to study, you can maybe go about and read it because it gives you a clear perspective of how to make writing more interesting. If anybody reads it once, you'll realize that they write it really coherently, and you would like to read it to the last word. So I think that is how you should proceed, be it an essay or in ethics. That the person who's reading it is bound to read it to the last statement. So you can go about, read it, and then you'll know how to make a flow in your answers, and I think that will really help, sir.
Like coming to the sources for ethics especially, is there a particular source that you think is really good for ethics?
So actually I took multiple sources, and that was over the period of time since I had 5 attempts at my disposal. I didn't know then, although, but then I read multiple sources. What I would advise is that you stick to one source which you feel you are comfortable with. Maybe it is a book, maybe it is a coaching material, whatever you are comfortable with, just stick to it. Understand the basic concepts. I think the problem is not with the source itself. all sources are equally competent and competitive. The problem lies with our understanding of the same. If I know the difference between empathy, sympathy, compassion, that will work well for me. The person who's writing the material, he or she knows about it really well. Now it's my time to know about it. So you read any one source, rely on it, whatever you feel is fine for you based on your understanding. You understand it well, and then you start writing answers on the same. Because only when you write answers, you will get to know if I am able to express myself in the answer or not. Considering that there are no direct questions asked, now it's not what is empathy or what are Gandhiji's sins, 7 sins.
Yeah.
There'll be no questions like that. There'll be a question which is totally random and which will require you to put all your knowledge across. So for that, you'll have to practice really well. So I think so that's the key.
Yeah. Coming to current affairs, there are a lot of doubts on students. How many papers should I read? Or should I read Hindu or Indian Express? Or should I stick to any monthly magazine? So what would you suggest for that?
So I think that newspapers should not be compromised with. While reading newspapers, our understanding of the same increases. So it's very important to read newspapers. While in the early years of my preparation, I used to rely on the Hindu, but with time I realized that the Indian Express is easy to comprehend. Plus they have a page where everything is explained. So whatever is in news, so they'll just explain it really well. Even with Hindu, I think they've started off the same trend. But then I was very comfortable with the Indian Express, so I started reading it. There's no need to read multiple newspapers unless and until you have a lot of time at your disposal and you are actually interested in reading the same. But one newspaper should suffice. Daily you need to go through that newspaper, and then you can rely on a monthly magazine. So whatever the plug holes are there, you can just fill them up by that monthly current affairs. So making your own notes is a difficult task, because what I felt was that I was not making good notes out of the newspaper and they were very jumbled and scattered. So these monthly magazines helped me in consolidating the same. And once they were done, at the end of it, I would just simply revise those monthly compilations, because I knew I had read them all along. So I think that was my strategy, and it should work well.
Okay. And coming to your optional, so you are, I think you are the topper in social.
Yes.
310.
Yes.
So what was your strategy? One is that, and the second most important thing is for anybody, any fresher who wants to choose an optional, what should be the criteria on which he or she should choose an optional?
So my understanding is there are two criteria to choose an optional. One is your own personal interest in it, and second is if it is rewarding or not. If the optional is rewarding you marks, that's one tick for that optional. And if you're interested in it, that is the final tick for that optional. And of course, the study material has to be available then for any person to choose an optional. Once these three things are done, it is very easy to choose an optional. You can just take maybe the NCRTs of the same subjects, and that ways you will know if you are very comfortable with the optional or not. For example, in the beginning I had two options, geography or sociology. I found sociology to be more interesting and easier to comprehend than geography, so I just went along with it. And you should never be egoistic while choosing your optional. I've seen many aspirants saying that since I understand logic really well, so I'll go with geography. Yeah. So I think that is a misnomer, because geography, I think, is not rewarding that good score. So you might understand it really well, use it in GS1, good for everyone, but don't overstretch yourself, because most of the times you are trying to prove something to other people that I am very good at logic and see I'll do wonders in geography. No need of that. You see which optional is giving you marks. If anthropology is giving you marks, go for it. If you think sociology is giving you marks, go for sociology. So that's how I chose my option.
So do you think trend is playing a role? Like, say, which option is doing well in the last 3 years, 5 years?
Yes, sir, because finally, after the whole process, it's the marks which matter in this examination. So if some optional is giving you marks, as I've heard, I'm not sure, I have not taken geography personally, but I've heard that it's not fetching good marks these days. So if there is some trend, then go along with it. I've heard that anthropology is giving really good marks. Again, if that's the case. Yes, sir. I think so, sir. So, I think the point is that if you're really comfortable with even a subject like geography, and you feel that you'll be able to fetch marks no matter what the trend is, just go for it. But don't go for it with that wrong narrative that I'll do something different which nobody has done till now. If I take it on my own, I take it as a personal fight that nobody understood geography till now, and I'll be the one that will understand geography and just do wonders. No need to do that. We are just an aspirant, just want to get a job, and for that we need to fetch marks. So take an optional which is easy to comprehend, easy to write answers on. I've seen some people are not comfortable with sociology. They feel that they're not able to write. Okay, if that's the case, don't take it. You think there is some other option for you. If maths fetches you good marks, go for maths. It's totally a person's choice. What I'm saying is, don't take it on your ego. Just go for it because it's a good optional, or you are comfortable with it and you are genuinely interested in that subject. And once that is decided, we are good to go. So I decided for sociology, and I was loyal to it for full 5 years. And I actually realized it a little late that for sociology I needed to have really good understanding of the concepts. So, for example, if I'm studying a thinker like Talcott Parsons, I need to understand what are the basic prerequisites of the same. If I don't understand my thinker really well, then who will understand it? So, and after I'm able to understand it well, I need to express it on my sheet, because the examiner won't directly know that, okay, she has understood Talcott Parsons well. So these are the two different aspects. Understanding the topic and then to be able to express it on the paper are two different things. And that will come with practice. But the first step cannot be overlooked. If I don't understand what is Marx's theory of materialism, I won't be able to reproduce it on paper. So the second step would be to write as many answers as possible. That way you'll be able to do really well. And that I'm speaking from experience, that the first answer that I wrote after prelims was absolutely trash. I think I would have it somewhere toned down or something, but it was absolutely trash. I did not know what I was writing, and my conclusions used to be absolutely nonsense, if I can use that term. So, but that will become better with time and with practice. As in, when your understanding will grow. Even for this sociology also, so I would say the same thing, that when you complete the whole paper 1 syllabus, you'll get a better understanding. You'll be able to use chapter 10 ka material in chapter 1 ka question. Okay. So that will give you the diversity that is required in that question. If you just keep on writing what was restricted to chapter 1, that might not fetch you marks. So what is required is कि आप chapter 1 से chapter 10 you read all of them, use chapter 10 का material in chapter 1, and the answer will become suddenly very good, because the examiner was not expecting this कि अच्छा this aspirant used this here. So that will come with a thorough reading and practice. So I covered my basic books, the Haralambus, IGNU, same which everybody reads, Ritzer, and then Mahapatra sir's notes. Everything I covered, and then I wrote a lot of answers. Based on the PYQs, I was able to get a trend that these are the important topics I really need to focus upon. For example, there is this chapter work in life. Okay. So that is not that important a chapter, but it has given maybe 10 questions or something. So I just wrote all those questions and I was done with this chapter. Okay. So instead of wasting time on that chapter, I could just move on. So I finished all the smaller ones and then I moved on to the ones which really could fetch me marks.
So coming to the last phase of your journey, that is UP interview. So how was your interview preparation?
So I think I prepared well. I had prepared my DAF, I had prepared the current affairs, and what is important is, I think, the D-Day, there has to be certain stars which have to align for a person to get good marks, and if that happens, so one can definitely get good marks. And somewhere it is a mixture of fate and knowledge, I think, and but knowledge cannot be definitely ignored. So after the DAF has been prepared, the current affairs has been prepared, one needs to be just really calm on that day and just give one's best output. I think that would make the best recipe for interview, if I may say so.
Okay. And how important was IS Baba's role in your journey? You can mention that.
So I think the best part about Sir's role in my journey was that I would just send him anything and everything I had, and he would just check the papers. He would never say that since you've not written on our questions, I would not check it or not evaluate it. But I was so surprised. Actually, Sir sent me across a GS2 ka full length paper, and he told me that you just write on it, and I'll check it. Then again, as I already spoke, I just wrote 12 to 13 questions of the same. And I actually had given one whole night to it, that, I'll sit with a cup of tea. I had a cup of tea and I was like, this night I'll finish this paper. But something happened, I could not complete that paper. And once you leave a test paper half, no, it's very difficult to come back to it and complete it. Because in that flow, if you do it, then it's done. But I think something had happened in the academy that night. So I just got too engrossed in it that what all is happening. I also needed to know. I think that was important for me then. So I just missed out on this. And then those 7 questions I never answered. So I thought that Sir will not think good about me if I send across just 13 questions. So I thought what I thought, I will complete it later and then send it across to you. But I just sent other test papers that I had written, and Sir was really kind enough to check those papers. But that is how Sir checked my scripts, and if possible, I'll share them across through my end, because I remember Sir's green ink pen on iPad that Sir used to give the extra comments, and so that helped me in improving the conclusions that I was writing, in making better introductions as well. And I remember on one phone call that you told me that we can just add some part of it where we are criticizing the above. Some critique of the same thing can be added just above the conclusion. So I think that was a major giveaway, because I added that to my answers and it gave some quality enhancement to the question itself. For example, in a question like discuss and elucidate, there is this difference, but you said that despite whatever being written, you can always enhance or decrease the scope of this criticism. So I think I maintained the same thing in my answers as well, and it really helped. So thanks a lot, sir, for like all the, I think, sleepless nights that you would have had just to check our copies and evaluate them better. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you for those kind words. And lastly, what do you like to advise the students who are preparing for this exam?
Since the prelims is coming really close, to all the students who are giving this year prelims, please practice a lot of mock test papers. Don't get disheartened if you score less. Let me tell you, there are some coaching institutes which are making really difficult papers. You should not get bogged down by the same. Trust yourself. Solve the previous year's questions, and if you think that you lag on any of the aspects, be it GS or CSAT, work on it. You still have time. And the most important aspect of this examination is confidence. Please don't let anybody hamper it, and no matter how the journey will be from here onwards, just have a lot of confidence on yourself, and trust me, this whole process will turn you into a very good person. My personal opinion is that a UPSC aspirant's knowledge is never failed. It never fails, because once you have that knowledge, nobody will be able to ever deceive you. So you'll always turn out to be a better person, and trust the journey, trust the process, and never let it go. Just do your best for this exam, this year's prelims. Good luck.
Yeah, and thank you for being here. I think it's been a long conversation.
Yes, sir.
I think this is one of the longest conversations that I've had with the topper. I think every word you have mentioned, every line you have mentioned, I think it's worth it. And I purposefully wanted you to detail out the process, because I don't think there's anybody else in whom I am in touch with who is a better person who can give this, because you have faced a lot of ups and downs in the journey, and I think you are the right person. So that was the reason it went into a more detailing aspect of it. And thanks for your time, and wish you all the best from the entire team.
Thank you so much, sir. Means a lot, sir. Thank you.